Okay, here we go. 10 minutes on each class. We are going to start with the simplest version of this thing, just kind of demonstrate what the heck is going on. And we're going to do it with something called a paint splash. And this is going to be basically the example you just saw, but we'll make it look a little cooler. So let's start by putting down a grid. I know. Are you excited? Also, we're going to do things a little bit exciting already. We're going to actually, for each one of these, the paint splash and the other things we're going to do on it, for each one, we're going to say that we have our main kind of character that we're working on, in this case, the grid. Let's actually make stuff that we render purple. You're wondering why I put this null down? This is going to be our parameters. So I'm going to do, and I tend to do this a lot. I've probably seen this in other tutorials. I'll make it black. This is going to be our parameters for the effect we're working on. And I usually put down a null. You take all these guys and you go, we don't even need these guys, make them invisible. Throw a new folder down. It's going to have our parameters. And what our parameters are going to be, I don't know yet. So, but they're going to be there when we need them. So, let's take a look. We have a grid, okay? So let's make that grid interesting. Let's do something that we can splash some stuff on. So I'll make it a bit bigger. We'll make it I'm gonna actually move it up just a little bit, and I'm gonna have it be really kind of high res. And then I'm gonna tilt it a little bit. I'm going to take it, and what we'll do is we'll just tilt it. Let's see. We want liquid to fall off it, so like 20 degrees is fine, right? Great, exciting. So let's make it actually a little more exciting. Let's make it a, do what you saw at the beginning. We'll make a bouncy or a roly-poly thing. That is a little excessive, so we'll take that and we'll make it. Let's make it a little higher but lower frequency. So like we'll take these guys down to, point. Yeah, that's fine. I was going to say 0.3, but let's say 0.4. Make it even a little higher so it's a little crazier. Okay, so that's pretty much good enough. The one thing I do want for these guys is let's give them some normals. Oh, actually, we have, I think there's an actual normal SOP. Nice. In Houdini 14, so we can say, give us some normals that look normal. Cool. And then, and this is another thing you'll see me do a lot, another null. And you're going, why would we care? And the answer is that when we're grabbing this in other places, we want to know what it's called. So our final result, I usually put a null down. I call it out, and I make it black, right? So that when we're grabbing, we know grid out is our final thing. Okay, so let's make our blob of paint that's going to go kersplooshy on this, and that'll be let's say a sphere. No one will see that one coming. Sphere, we'll just drop it down. This will be our source. So remember, this was called our grid. And that's our grid parameters. This will be our, let's call it our grid fluid source, I think is what I was going to go with for this. Boom, boom, boom. And our sphere, we're going to move up a little bit. Let's see what size should we make it. I think a little smaller, actually. Yeah, we'll leave it where it is. Let's just move it up. Let's move it to like, let's see, where's our guy? Our guy's there, so we'll move our sphere to up here somewhere. Maybe, where'd be a good place to kersploosh? We're just going to let gravity take this guy down. So maybe, here. And that should be interesting. Although now I look at it, I want the mountain to be a little lower frequency, and just so we can get some and a little more height, just so we'll get some like. And of course, you can. This is just for example's sake, but I guess I wanted to see little pockets where things might happen and so forth. I just want to make this a little kind of interesting for us. Okay, so we're looking at that. We're like, okay, that's fine. There's a grid fluid source. Except I didn't do my trick I usually do, right? We do the out. Fine, we'll do an out. Now, time to make some fluidness. So, we could do this a couple ways. Let's do this with these guys. I don't use these guys that much, but I know how you guys do, so I'm going to. This is a flip fluid from object. That seems like that might be handy. Let's hit that and see what happens. Kaboom. And it makes a bunch of things with no colors at all that bugs the heck out of me. This is the actual sim. So I'm going to call that grid underscore fluid sim. This is the actual fluid it makes. You'll see when we look into it, it basically takes the output of this and then does a particle thing, or a meshing thing. The interior, I'm going to say we don't even need that. I'm literally just going to delete that. Okay. My other thing is I like to make simulations that color, so I know what's going on. So let's take our grid and let's go ahead and hit. We're going to say it's going to be a static object, right? Because it's not really going to move around. Bonk, accept. And so let's take a look, and since this is input to that, I'm going to make this a little bit colored. Let's go ahead and take a look what's in here. I usually hit H and L just to kind of make things look nicer, and I get rid of any silly merges that we don't need. Static solver, by the way, secret, doesn't do anything, so you can always get rid of it. There's our flip fluid object. There's our gravity. There's our guy. The only thing I'm going to change right away before we even do anything is I'm going to say that our collisions, I want to actually hit every little nook and cranny and bits and back and bonger, and it probably wouldn't work with volume collision based detection. Boy, it's hard to say because it's just a plane. So we really just wanted to do it as if it's, you know, looking at this guy for real. I don't think we need that big of a box either, by the way. Holy crow. So let's take a look at the, I think they hide it in here. And let's make the box of simulation much smaller. And again, this isn't really that, you know, important. I guess these are kind of practices I tend to do just because they make it a little happier in the long run. But I'm going to leave that alone for now. Things that I am going to change in here. Substeps is one thing we're going to do. I'm going to leave this the way it is, but later on we'll probably change it. And there's a couple other little bits of bang. Well, let's just actually watch it. Let's see what happens, and we'll talk as we go. So let's play and see what happens. We see the liquid goes down, interacts with our guy as we wanted. It breaks up into what I would say are a little small guys who might need higher particle separation. And at least it makes some rivulets. This is really probably enough to actually get us going. Again, as a visual effects guy in movies, I would be like, this is not nearly enough and looks terrible. But what I'm really trying to display is we're going to make a shader that's going to work on this grid that's going to show where it was wet, where it was, you know, if this is paint, where the paint was left behind. Because as you can see, some bits of it, I'm going to call it paint. Some of this paint, you know, clusters up in some spots and then hangs out and then goes on, but there's nothing that affects and leaves paint behind. And in real life, paint leaves a trail, but it's a trail of like, you know, 1 micrometer thick. So we're not actually going to simulate it. We're actually going to do a shader to fix it up. Let's take a look and see what this does. Ooh, I like it. Actually, that'd be fine because that'll be fun. That'll do some stuff. Fine, peachy. Okay, I'm going to let that run out, and what I'm going to do, we're running down at a 1 minute mark here, so what I'm going to do is we're going to take that guy. If you go into here, and again I'm going to make this purple because this is the, I'm just going to call it grid fluid. This is our final kind of output. So you see what they do by default. They bring in the fluid and they mesh it. And so they, what we're going to do is I'm going to call this stuff grid underscore fluid because, and as you notice, they use the $sign hip name. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to actually export to the file, which gives us a good time since we're running out of time to stop and go to the next one. So I will see you on the flip side when I have this.